All right. First live of the week, Monday, means some planning for the podcast episodes for the next 7 episodes. And we need to go through some stats and reviews to just review all of last week's work. So, all right, I'm going to remember to put Instagram over because I always forget to do that. Tash, thanks for joining the live. I think you might have already dropped out, but it's all good. I'm pretty sure I'm still lagging because my camera's. So some good news. Business Bytes social media uncovered over the weekend. Sunday, we ranked third in marketing and 64th in business, which is sick. Which is really really cool. So we're in the top. We were in the top three for a period of time. I think we're down to 10 again now. And yeah, pretty cool to only be a couple of weeks in and we're in the top three in a really really competitive space. You know, marketing and business being the primary um, category, and then marketing being a subcategory in terms of the search engine, is pretty cool to be in the top 100 in business and then also the top 3 in marketing. That's pretty cool to have that opportunity. It also is interesting. We finally switched into our analytics in Spotify, and we finalized a few other platforms so that we could do a little bit more research around stats. I think stats is really, really important to figure out where the listeners are coming from, how they're interacting with the platforms, how they're doing, and all of that stuff. So we switched on Q&A for all of the Spotify playlists, Spotify podcast episodes from before and after, from future, which means now you can actually let us know pretty quickly if you enjoyed the episode, and get some really live feedback through there. We also switched on the account, so meaning that we can go in and get the analytics. Obviously, it was feeding to Spotify, but we hadn't created an account for our analytics yet, because it wasn't really that important in your first kind of 10 episodes or so. But we're creeping up into 20 episodes now, so we wanted to try and get some feedback and some analytics. So we did that, and I think 64% of our traffic on Spotify is coming from search, which is awesome. It's not being pre kind of requested or pre engaged to that specific listener, so it's not on a For You page yet, but if we have over 50% of our audience searching for it on Spotify, it means that our keywords are working, our titles are working. Obviously, primarily having business in the first two words in the title helps tremendously. But also, social media, all of that stuff, all of that strategy that we came up with is working quite nicely. So yeah, early days, early days. But it's really cool to start seeing that stuff pay off, especially in some of the big categories. So yeah, like we did, what was it? Let's just go to our daily rankings. Not that this stuff really matters. I just think it's interesting to give a perspective. So yeah, on the 24th, so yeah, over the weekend we ranked 3rd in marketing and 64th in business. So that's pretty cool. We jumped 7 spots in marketing and 130 spots in business, which is, I mean, yeah, you've got to be happy with that. But at the same time, it's early days, so we've got to keep doing that. We've got to keep going. I really want to start seeing some reviews and stuff like that. I think that's going to come with longer episodes. And speaking of longer episodes, we are fully ready with our first guest, which is going to be this Friday, which is going to be the recording, is going to be this Friday. So look out for that podcast episode. It's probably going to be the following week, but that's going to be our first video podcast episode. So that's going to be when we officially move over to our own YouTube channel, and also post a lot more vertical content on our social media platforms. So yeah, look out for that. I will put the podcast link in the comments. Where is it? There we go. Do that there. And then I will put there as well. So you can just quickly go and listen to that if you wanted to. So yeah, I'm stoked with those bites of information that we gathered over the weekend. No pun intended. But yeah, having a top 3 in the first couple of weeks is pretty cool. It's really resonating with our audience, which is cool to see. But like I said, reviews rankings and stuff like that are going to be so fluctuating. Like if you saw the rankings that went up, I think by now we're probably 10th in marketing. So it's not that big of a deal. But at the same time, like I think it's I think it's really cool to see that. It beats a lot of um, people in our category. They've had podcasts a lot longer than we have. But also, this is also why I say in social media and business and whatever, it's better to launch your idea and figure out a few other things in the behind the scenes than it is to get everything perfect. Because if we spent so much more time on doing the things that we wanted to, we would still not be launched yet. We still wouldn't be in the top 10 we are now. Top three over the weekend. We're in the top 70 in business in New Zealand. So, by the way, caveat: this is in New Zealand. Globally, a lot different. But what I want to do is wherever we're situated, I want to take over that first, and then see how we can take on the big giants when we start getting more guests and stuff like that. So, to bring full circle, the rankings for me is all about how we can show authority to guests coming onto the podcast. Obviously, like the guests that we want to have, and me personally want to have, these people are going to have audiences. So I want to make sure that at least it's going to be worth their time. Um, so it's important for me to have those things. So yeah, we've dropped down today. I get a report. I get a daily report sent to me every morning. So the first thing I look into is my reviews, analytics, all of that stuff. That's literally the first like 30 minutes of my morning. Whatever time that is, I get reports sent to me via Slack. I get reports sent to me via email. I get reports sent to me whatever medium can get it to me the quickest. That's literally what I do in the morning. Um, I review all of the things that have happened the day before. I review all of the things that happened the week before on a Monday, like today is. And then once a month, that Monday then falls into like a review for the month as well. But yeah, I mean, top 10 for me is awesome. I'm happy with that. I've obviously we've got things that we want to improve on. We've got things that we want to get. But like I said, the whole ranking system for me is creating collateral around how we can really prove to a higher end guest or a guest with a larger audience that it's going to be worth their time coming onto the podcast. Cool. So yeah, like today, what we're doing is we're just fine tuning or finalizing a few things for booking this guest in. I've just got a few emails that came over the weekend that I have to address, and then also we have to write. I have to write 7 scripts or outlines of podcast episodes for the next coming weeks, and so obviously I've also made it completely transparent that we do daily uploads. Like I'm not breaking that. That is the 100% the minimum that we can do is daily episodes. So I just think in a starting in the industries that we're in, we have to compete on all fronts, and that's for me is going to be the bare minimum that we can do. Um, all right, so I've got to get this first of all. I've got to get this email away. Josh, how you doing? Katrina, how you doing? Thanks for joining. Um, Josh asked, "How did you start? How did you do that starting video?" So I use a software called Ecamm Live. Ecamm. You can just type it into Google, and it's a streaming software similar to like OBS or anything like that. And you can stream to as many platforms as you want, but you can also create what they call scenes. Each scene is, for example, I can show you. Let me just pull it up here. So I can go back. And I can also come back to the welcome screen. So each one obviously is muted or different things that I can change. So they call it scenes, and then you can just transition between each one. So as you transition to them, it happens live onto each platform. There might be a simple delay, like at the moment, my camera is causing like a delay in terms of the wording in the video, which so there's a few things that you have to tidy up here and there. But Ecamm Live is the software. So let me just I'll find it for you. I'll just there you go. Yeah, I know you can't click on that link in my Instagram comments, but you can just probably just type in Ecamm. So ECAMM, Ecamm. So it's charging USD. I think it's about 20 or $30 a month if you wanted to do like the normal one, or you can go to the pro version. I'm still on the trial because I'm still fine tuning a few things. I'm deciding between StreamYard and Ecamm Live are my two options, or do I just go OBS and do other things? But ultimately, the benefit is that you can stream to multiple platforms. So for Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, it's the direct link. For Instagram, TikTok, and any other platforms, you have to get like a stream key, and that stream key you just put into the platform so that it automatically streams to that. There's a few downsides like the delay, and all of these things are a little bit frustrating because the only reason that happens is because the platform doesn't allow you to have really high res images, so you always have to downscale from like 4K to 1080p because the platform itself has a problem with that. But eventually, everyone will catch up to it, and it'll be good. But hopefully that helps. How do I hire a nice group of people? So I mean, yeah, it depends on your needs. Like there's plenty of different services out there, and it depends on your budget. So you can hire an agency like ourselves. Like I run an agency called MBT Agencies. We do full social media, graphic design, video editing, and we manage social media. So we can do social media management on a minor scale or a larger scale. But if you're trying to build your own team, for example, or you want to hire an in-house or something like that, you can go on like Upwork. You can go to Unicorn Factory if you're in New Zealand. It really depends on your budget and your needs. Like agencies like mine tend to work on retainers. We don't tend to do just one-off jobs. If you're looking at one-off jobs, you're looking at like Upwork, like I just mentioned, or Unicorn Factory. You can check us out if you go to but really depends. Like I think working with an agency is awesome because you're getting a whole lot of expertise for a certain amount of income. Um, and uh, so there's the link for my agency if you wanted to check it out. But it really depends on the needs of and the intricacies of what you actually want. So uh, Josh said, I'm a tattoo artist, so I need people to record and edit. Yeah, so I mean, the location of where you are doesn't matter. For like us, for example, we work in I think 3 different time zones at this point. So most agencies or most freelancers will work in the time zone that you're in. US tends to be quite favorable because the time zones work quite well. But if you're looking for to record and edit. Yeah, I mean that's definitely something that we can help with. Or for example, we could take a lot of that workload off you. If you just go to that website that I just commented in the comment section on Instagram, you can just give us a message, or just email hello@mptagencies.com. We can definitely have a conversation. Because I think tattoo artists are cool. I think one of the benefits for you, I've had this conversation quite recently over the last like 4 or 5 days actually with business owners, who are like sculptors or barbers or designers like clothing designers, and a tattoo artist, for example. I think live streaming in 2024 is going to be massive for you. It creates a lot of I guess nervousness around like being live, and it's not scripted or it's not doing all of that stuff. But I think like if you had a live stream in the corner of your shop or your wherever you're tattooing in, and let's say you could even have it on mute to start off with. But I think the intricacies around how you could have that being on display, obviously in the right manner in the right environment. I think obviously there's different tattoos that you might not be able to show, obviously, but at the same time, I think just people diving in and diving out, just like you have on my live, I think brings a whole lot of authenticity around what you do. But obviously, you're on the right path of creating content, and all of that stuff. So definitely give me a message, or just even DM me on Instagram if you want to, if that's easier. We can definitely have a conversation because that's definitely something we can do. And most agencies can. If you want to work with someone based in the US and you want to be in the same time zone, I completely get it. I would go to Upwork. They're a freelancing site. Majority of those people on that site are probably independent owners or independent editors, designers, and all of that stuff. And they're all background checked before they're on there as well. So that's why I tend to say go to there instead of going to somewhere like a Fiverr or somewhere like that, because none of those guys are background, I guess, checked in terms of quality. They just kind of create an account and you can go through it. Where Upwork, you've got a portfolio and all of that stuff. So I think probably either start one of those two ways, have a message with me, or go to somewhere like Upwork and have an understanding of it, because that is probably something that's probably holding you back in terms of creating content. I'll check your account out later on, but I think probably normally business owners, or especially um, artists and stuff, their wall of creating content is that they spend all day working and then they have to create content themselves. So hopefully that answered your question. All right, back to my. So yeah, if you've got comments, comment down below. I can see them on Instagram and I can see them on all of the other platforms. Instagram, I just have to have a separate window. So feel free to comment anything. Oh, that's what I was doing actually. Desktop. 500 contacts. Cool. Done. All right. Jordan, how you doing? Thanks for joining. All right. So one of the things with podcasts, especially with video, is you can't always like get the guests you want in person, although that's preferable. And majority of people, if you talk to them about podcasts, I'd recommend it. However, at the same time, when you're starting, it's better to just do whatever you can to get more information to your audience than it is to worry about how you geographically get that person from A to B to be in your podcast. Eventually, ideally, I would love all of my guests to be in person, but a majority of the time, it doesn't work out like that. And again, it comes back to like, I'd rather just continue with episodes, continue with the direction that we have, than getting bottlenecked with the minute problems of online versus offline and the quality around that. So one of the things that we navigated that query around, because we knew it would come up with that, is using a platform or a software to mitigate the audio problems and the visual problems. So a lot of the time people think, yep, it's great to do podcasts, but Zoom is average in terms of quality and average in terms of reliability. And we knew that we only get one shot at this. We're not going to waste people's time. We also want to create content around those episodes. So it's important that we get the best resolution possible for that episode or each episode. So, like, for example, I have a Shure SM7B, Rodecaster Pro 2, all of the setup, but obviously not every single guest that I have is going to have the same. So one of the things that we did, one of the things that I brainstormed around how we can do this is getting a software like Podcast or Podcastal.ai as our mitigator. So you could actually technically do it through Ecamm Live, but as you can see, there's a few problems with audio, a few problems with visual, and it's, to me, got a lot of room to improve before you do something like a podcast that's going to be on display on horizontal and vertical platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and so forth. So I actually tested it for about 3 months last year. And we went through a whole lot of testing and a whole lot of side of things. And the one thing that stands out to me is that when you have a a guest, it records locally the audio and the video. So it records two separate situations. So it doesn't it doesn't combine the audio and visual into one file, which is really, really hard. For example, like this, where you've got a complete time delay. Mike, how you doing, mate? Thanks for joining the live. So one of the things that I wanted to do was mitigate that. So Ecamm Live Pro version, you can have a audio file and a video file, but I just don't think it's up to where it needs to be in order to get the outcome that I want it to. So podcastle.ai or podcastle.ai is the one that I wanted. So it's cool because you've got things like Magic Dust and some AI features that you can really streamline the audio process if you don't have a setup like mine. Maybe you're doing a podcast on an iPhone or an Android. Maybe you're using your computer speakers or computer microphones and all of that stuff, because like I said, it's better to get it done than it is to get it perfect, I think, in the world of social media at the moment. So one of the things that stood out for me was the ability for us to clean up that audio relatively quickly and relatively affordably without putting it through processing and so forth. So that's one of the things that stands out. And also when you're recording at really high qualities. So it's not as, I guess, detrimental like streaming to different platforms like I am now. So the quality for me stands out. You can get a 4K webcam. You can get an iPhone these days with continuation that they have in the recent updates. So you can literally turn your iPhone around and turn that into a webcam. So it means that those guests that we're getting in can use things at their disposal pretty quickly. And also you can schedule recordings and you can schedule interviews similar to Zoom. So pretty much every functionality that Zoom has, but it's just a lot better. But the audio thing for me stands out the most because you've got a lot of different things at your disposal that you would have to pay a lot more money per month or a lot more money per year in order to get for your disposal. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through and finalizing the scheduling for this upcoming guest that we're having, which is hopefully going to fall on a Friday. And like I said, that episode probably is going to be out next week. So it's going to be our first guest podcast. And you obviously won't find out until our trailers release. That's how it works. If I tell you now, you're never going to watch or listen to the episode. But yeah, so if you're just coming in randomly and you have no idea what I'm talking about, we launched a podcast about a couple of weeks ago called the Business Bytes Social Media Uncovered podcast, bite-sized pieces of social media and business information, a lot more digestible than the average podcast. We've ranked in the top 3 so far as our highest ranking in New Zealand, and we've tapped into the top 70 in the business category. So top 3 for the marketing category and top 70 for the business category, which is cool because business is filled with like Diary CEO, Property Academy podcasts, like massive podcasts that have done thousands of episodes. They have a whole lot of production behind them. So to be in only a couple of weeks and being in those is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and schedule all of this, get this out to the team so they can send those emails out. And then we can look forward to having that on Friday, because one of my jobs now that we've confirmed it is that I need to research, and that probably takes anywhere between like 4 to 6 hours, probably accumulatively. So we've got some work to do around getting that information done. And of course, being in the first episode, there's always going to be some hiccups that are unforeseen. So I'm sure I can tell you all about that next week. But yeah, I've listed the link in the comment section. So if you want to head over there, it's available on every single, I think we're on like 18, 19, maybe even 20 different platforms between Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Google Play Podcast, which is actually transitioning to YouTube, and a whole lot of different platforms. So pretty much anywhere you're going to be able to stream it, you will be able to find the Business Bytes Social Media Uncovered podcast. And we are 14 episodes in. So rocking up on the old milestones coming in. I'll just actually find out how many episodes we've done. Yeah, I think we're about 14. And we've had, I think nearly just under 100 just under 100 downloads. So there's difference between downloads, followers, and impressions and reach. So downloads is effectively what they call plays, and then impressions is obviously how many times that is played continuing. I guess they only count the plays as one because my impressions is much higher than what the downloads is. And then followers, obviously, they've followed the account, whether that's on Apple, Spotify, and so forth. But yeah, I think it's a pretty cool, consistent amount of views. And remember, like podcast is similar to most video platforms now in terms of like once you've or similar to YouTube, once you've posted it accumulates more and more views, more and more listens. Obviously you only need one episode to get a high amount of views for them to go and check out all the rest. But like I said, I think nothing really counts for me until probably over 100 episodes, so we're well and truly um, got a while to go before we even categorize ourselves as good, mediocre, successful, non-successful, whatever. I think you need to give yourself about 100 episodes. Cool. All right. So now that I've got off that tangent, let me get back to scheduling this, or working on scheduling this. So that's going to be All right, so now that that's been done and we've sent that off for the team to get all of that stuff ready, I need to script some more episodes. Also, as a recap, I remember I did a live, I think last week, talking about researching and how it's important. Obviously, like the most important thing you can do on platforms is to search for things that people are already searching for, rather than, I don't know why I'm looking there. It's actually because the camera, like my actual feed is there. But one of the most important things you can do is find out what people are already searching and then make episodes about that or make content around that, because people are already searching for it. Therefore, the idea is already validated, rather than letting your ego go and say, I know what my listeners or my viewers or my followers want to see. That's probably the worst thing you can possibly do when you're starting off with something, and you don't have that much data to find out what episodes are doing well or what content was doing well. So, for example, one of the things that we found in the research last week was that um, buyer personas and social media strategy, the two differences, are they important, or um, what's the power behind all of that? Because that's literally what one of the things we found in our research was. We made an episode, I scripted an episode around that, created the episode, and it's literally our highest episode. I'm just confirming. Yep. So it's been listened to 3. So yeah, it's come to the top, and I only released that Saturday. It was a Saturday episode, and it's the highest amount of listens. And I would assume if I go into the stats, yeah, it's been listened to the most. Been listened to the most, which is obviously a validation around the ideas that we use and how we use it. Like I said before, one easy thing you can do is go on to Google Trends. It's free. You don't have to have a subscription to it. And one of the other sites that I recommend is Answer the People, but that's a paid service. So I tend to try and not release or recommend paid services on streams because you may not have the budget for it. Therefore, I'm not giving you advice that you can actually implement. So I, just use examples on Google Trends, find out keywords, find out what people are searching, and then create scripts and create flows around that. So when I say scripts, like every single episode we do is it's structured. So I know exactly what I should be saying, how to say it, and so I don't go off track. I think one of the downfalls, and especially in the podcast space, is people use a lot of ahs, similar to what I'm doing live streaming now. Ahs, gaps, dead silence, all of that stuff. And that comes from not knowing or trying to get yourself back on track. So I just have talking points. I have bullet points, exactly what I should be saying. and then I bring in my own kind of flow onto that. So yeah, it's similar to like how we're going to do guests. Obviously, the most important thing you can do is research a guest, um, and all of that stuff. So yeah, I tend to look if I'm in Google Trends, for example. I tend to look around like what's actually trending. So if I just go social media is normally one somewhere I start, and because it's quite broad, you don't want to go too defined at the start. And then you kind of refine it based on what you're seeing. So you kind of obviously with every system, you need to have some sort of topic first or some sort of relevancy around that, and I tend to try and get those things around what episodes did well. So like true or false, the power of a buyer persona and social media strategy. So that episode did pretty well, but it's kind of too new for me to go back. So what I tend to do is I go back on our oldest podcast. So like we only started 11 days ago. So I only have 14 episodes to go back on. But out of those 14 episodes, TikTok 2024 did well, kind of obvious. Triad of Triumph, which for me is probably our hero episode because it talks about mastering value, authenticity, and engagement in social media content. And then our other one is again TikTok. Like as soon as as soon as we make episodes about TikTok, they tend to get high views. So in that 7 days of our content plan, I tend to always try and favor the fact that we're going to have some sort of episode of TikTok, because one thing you need to be able to do um, is create topics that are actually relevant to the current day and age, and then have some sort of case study around that for one of the episodes. This is also what I found based on the research before we launched the podcast, and also what we do for businesses who want to launch podcasts. So, for example, when I just put the term TikTok into the search term, and you can kind of just repeat this process. By the way, it works for pretty much anything. Again, you kind of want to have a relatively broad topic, uh, and then, for example, the related queries is and related topics tend to give you that next step. One of the best things is chocolate covered strawberries TikTok, right? Because honestly, every man and his dog have created this product out of nothing. Its virality is quite high. We've even used this in some of our marketing for clients who have the opportunity to have some of that available. And we already know that kind of works. But what I would create a podcast episode around that, I would obviously use that in my title somehow. But what I would also do is create around a topic around creating products that in themselves create virality. So it's not necessarily about the people that create the product, being the strawberries or the chocolate, but having those two together, and the marketability of that product is quite high. So often business owners or people that want to create money tend to not think about the virality effect of a product. Like you might want to release a certain product, but does that product look aesthetically pleasing, fits the demographic that it's made for, and can you create content around that product on a regular basis? So for example, chocolate covered strawberries TikTok, for example, covers all of those three. You can create multiple ways to create product around it. Its virality probably speaks for itself, and its combination actually kind of fits in the demographic for that as well. So one of the other ones that I'm more interested around being on the rise, it's had a 900% rise in the last seven, 7 days. And I guess because we're problem is if I go New Zealand, we're such a small demographic that how to delete Snapchat, TikTok, so usually I use United States because it's a broader demographic, and I think like close to 50% of our traffic comes from the United States. So often by proxy, New Zealand would be interested as well. So it does take a while. Like it does take a while when you want to kind of research TikTok. Research. I say TikTok. Research podcast episodes. So as you do more of it, you get better at it. All right, I think I've got a pretty good framework. So I've got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Eight different topics that I'm going to script out. And then each topic is going to include an episode. And some of them I'm not too sure whether I might include or not. Some of them are relevant to current happenings, which you can then, I guess, piggyback off that traffic. So people are searching for that. They're going to want to find out more information, but also that the longevity of that doesn't have that much runway. So it's all important in a 7-day week if you're doing a daily podcast or you're releasing content daily, that you can think about how you're going to incorporate that side of things and have a mixture of current trends and also um, longevity content. Cool. All right. So now what I do is I'm going to spend the rest of, well, majority of the latter of today scripting out these episodes because it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes an episode to record. So I've kind of got the formula down pretty well. All right, so we're up to episode 15. Claudia, how you doing? Thanks for joining the live. Um, cool. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more to go. So 6 frameworks down. And one more to go. And I've got 2 backups for next week. So two, three. Cool. So we've got 3 for next week and one more to go here. All right, so these are done. I just need to go through. Cool. All right, those episodes are done. I just need to record them, which is my next task. And then that pretty much brings us up to finish time. I'm going to try and work out a way that I can just stay on live for like the whole day. But the problem is at the moment I've only got one mic in which I need to be able to use if I'm going to, let's say, record anything. So let me work on that. But otherwise, I'm just going to end up the stream here. I'll be back on tomorrow for another one. Just showing you a glimpse in and everything. And one day I'm going to be able to fix this lag because I can see it and it's frustrating. But I'll work on that. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll get back to those people that have messaged me. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.